My commentary journey is probably one filled with lack of confidence as a kid growing up. I was always one of those shy kids, horrible at making friends, or I was the guy that used to stand around on the fringe of the group and just be there. And for probably a better description of it, if I didn't say much, no one would notice. But for some reason, as a young kid, it was just commentary just got to me. I was the kid as a 9 year old. I fell in love with AFL in country Victoria. I've echoed this story many times throughout my circles. I used to watch VFL on TV. This was in the '90s, so we're talking. I think the ABC call. I used to get on to watch Springvale and Williamstown play on Channel 2 a fair bit, and then I used to listen to 3AW, whatever game was going on a Saturday afternoon. And then I'd pick up my copy of the Herald Sun. I'd have my Friday paper, my Saturday paper, and my Monday paper. So Saturday afternoons, I used to just lay in front of the TV, have 3AW blowing really loud. 9 year olds are out on their bikes and all that sort of stuff. But I guess growing up in regional Victoria, it was just too cold. And then I fell in love with wrestling. And a couple of mates and I, we did the old backyard wrestling. We ignored the signs. Do not try this at home. But a few of us did. And so for me, I actually grew up in front of a camera where we did commentary. We did our own play-by-play. We had to build characters. For me, I was more fascinated by the promo work, and I was so shy, absolutely horrendous at it. But it was just, I grew. The more I did it, it was like, okay, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about that. Camera on now, and we're just going to drop it. And this is the kid that's very shy. So I threw myself into that, and I got better the older I got. But I've just been probably like a lot of people who may be listening to this or watching this. I've just started watching the documentary Beckham, and there's a big reflection on the FIFA World Cup 1998. And I got the Nintendo 64 game, FIFA 98. And it just got me thinking as a kid when I got it, when I was 10, 11 years old when that came out, I used to spend hours in my room. I used to turn the volume down and I used to commentate. I didn't know who David Beckham was. I didn't know who any of these players were, but I used to just create a story while playing the game on the old Nintendo. And I was like, bang, I just did it without even thinking. And then I threw myself into debating at high school. Did the whole handful of notes on a piece of paper, bombed on my very first one. It was terrible, but I just threw myself in there. So when I got more into when there was an opportunity to do sports calling as a sort of a 20-year-old, the opportunities at my local radio station they were there. And I did radio shows and I just gradually started to improve with ad-libbing. And so sport always drew me back to this is what I'm going to do. And then I was lucky enough in 2009 for the Riddle District Football Netball League back in Victoria, there was an opportunity to do some trial games and sort of build a team where I ultimately, I know there's probably mates out there that are watching it. I was like, I'd put people in spots where they were calling and I'm like, that's kind of what I wanted to do, but I wanted to create the vision first. And we had this historic occasion in 2009 where Highlands FM in regional Victoria teamed up with 3NRG FM in Sunbury and then Southern FM on the outskirts of Melbourne. And we had 3 radio stations broadcasting the Southern Footy League via the RDFNL Interleague. And we covered, I think we covered several hundred kilometres on community radio for this one big game. It was massive. But for me personally, it was like, I was more about how can we grow? How can we create? And I was lucky enough to go, hey, let's do this and bring the people along for the ride. So I did about 6 years of commentary for the RDFNL, built it from the ground up, worked with some wonderful people and had some wonderful memories. And that was very special for me. The first year that I did play-by-play was in 2011. I started going out with my now lovely wife and I didn't really have the confidence anyway. I was like, what am I doing? And I threw myself into one game and I'm like, okay. It was at Riddle v Diggers Rest. It was the grand final rematch of the previous year, rematch of the grand final from the previous year, and I was off. I was like, okay, we're in. And then I got Jess involved in the next week, and the game ended at halftime. And due to an unfortunate injury to a player, it was like, okay, we're away now. And we were lucky enough to win a couple of national awards too after a couple of years, and then And then after my radio journey there, we moved to Victoria. I think when I was working as a journalist, I'd always got in trouble from the lovely employees.
Sorry, moved to Melbourne.
No. So I got told I prioritised radio broadcasts on the weekend over my other work commitments. So we had other leagues that we're involved in, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm calling down here this weekend, and it's a different league. So my lovely former editor, and I've thanked very recently, gave me the opportunity to go, you know what, you're good at this. You're managing the other areas, just go for it. So, and then when I landed up here in Queensland, I basically just said to AFL Queensland in 2019, I love community radio. Every time I go to a game, I want to I want to listen in. And they're like, well, we don't have community radio, but we do have a spot available in the QAFLW competition. And away we went. So I was lucky enough from there. Then I had a chat to Jason Bennett, and he encouraged me to get into VFL, and I started doing work at SEN, and I was able to get a few AFL games too. So the process started from very humble beginnings back in the day, but it was the only place where I kind of felt comfortable. And there was one game that I did. It was a under-18s game, second semi-final, and Rupert's Wood were playing Macedon at Tony Clark Reserve. And this, for me, was probably the biggest game of my career at that point. It was the biggest game, one of the probably top 3 memories that I remember now, even out of all the games that I've called, out of the hundreds I've called. But Macedon came back from all against the odds. There's this superstar called Seb Malatek who kicked 6 or 7 goals on the day. They beat Rupert's Wood, who hadn't lost a game out of, I think, 48-game win streak they had. And we were right on the balcony, surrounded by plenty of people, and the crowd were going absolutely bananas. They were thriving. They were eating away from our energy. They were just feeding into it. So that the more excited I got more excited, and they ramped it up. So it was just this remarkable energy of this once-in-a-lifetime call and once-in-a-lifetime game. The two faced off in the grand final. Rupert's would beat Macedon by 20 goals. So we knew that this was something special, and that gave me the appreciation of being there with the spectators and thriving off their energy, which you just can't encapsulate anywhere else. So that's sort of my journey to, from the days of, and of course I played the 1,000 games of footy in the backyard, kicking it around. I had 2 teams, and I'd split my friends up into 2 different teams, and I'd had games going up, made up stats, and gave voices to my female friends who were interviewers.